Greetings and salutations, friend. I'm Prince Amari, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the number one dating skill that gay singles need to develop. Okay? And to be fair, this is the number one dating skill everybody needs to develop. Let me set the scene for you, okay? The number one reason anybody is single or will soon be single again is because they're trying to have a level 25 relationship with level 3 dating skills. But level 25 is our ideal of perfection that doesn't exist. Nobody's relationship measures up to that. You really only need to be at level 7 to have the confidence and competence necessary to be an effective dater, okay? So level 25, no existe. But our expectations are simultaneously unrealistic and our skills aren't high enough to handle what is realistic. So there's no wonder why we tend to struggle in relationships, okay? So that's first things first. The second thing is once we are in a relationship, the primary reason relationships fail is not infidelity. It's not arguments about money. The number one reason relationships fail is because of our unrealistic expectations about what our partners will and won't do. In other words, all the things you think a person is supposed to do in a relationship that are not able to be in one single person, that's what makes it unrealistic. So that means that the primary relationship skill, the primary dating skill that anybody needs to develop is the ability to quantify realistic relationship expectations and needs, and then be able to qualify or assess, determine whether or not your potential partner, the person you're dating, getting to know, the person you meet on a dating app, whether or not they have the current capacity to meet those needs. And I use those words on purpose. Current capacity, because the only way to guarantee that someone has the capacity to fulfill your expectations or meet your needs long term, well into the future, is to guarantee that they have the current capacity to do it now. We tend to fall for people's potential, but potential is the icing. Capacity is the cake. If you have a need, and we all have needs. If you're a human, you have needs, right? If you have relationship needs, romantic needs, and the person doesn't have the current capacity to fulfill those needs, they are not likely to develop that potential to do so in this lifetime, right? You can't bet on potential. Now this, I want to give you a little caveat. If you're like, I need someone who is, say for example, well-educated, right? And maybe you don't have a degree now, but you are currently in school to get one. I don't count that as potential. I count that as you're in progress, right? So there's perfection and there's progress. Nobody needs to be perfect. You just need to be in progress. But if you're not in that lane at all, if you're not currently, able to meet that need, that expectation, then it's not likely that the potential is going to develop unless you're currently already developing it. Because guess what, friends? You can't change people. Quiet as it's not kept. Probably already tried it and it hasn't worked. So yeah, great. Number one skill, being able to assess exactly what you need and expect realistically, and then determine whether or not someone can meet those needs and expectations. But how does one do that? Great question. So I'm going to give you some tips, some tricks, some techniques. And these are going to be brief because it's a YouTube video. We can't be here all day. But I am going to list a lot of different resources for you to look deeper into them. And if there's anything you want me to do a video on and go deeper into on its own, definitely let me know in the comments and I can do that. Now, let's start with this. First things first, I mentioned number one reason anyone is single is because they're trying to have a level 25 relationship with level 3 dating skills. Definitely take the dating skills quiz at the link in the description. Okay, that's first thing. Now, when we look at setting realistic expectations, what we have to understand is what makes us compatible with someone in the first place. All right. And I have a very nice handy dandy acronym for you. You know that, well, maybe you know this if you've watched any of my videos, but if this is your first video you've ever watched, I'm a gay love coach and matchmaker and hypnotherapist and things. But this is what I do, right? Compatibility is my area of expertise. And so nice little acronym that I actually use with all my clients. It's MATCH, M-A-T-C-H, okay? M is mission and values. You have to have compatible values, right? And this is not a part of the skill of being able to define whether or not someone has a capacity, but you need to know what your values are in order to be able to tell whether or not someone else shares your values, because values are the number one predictor of long-term compatibility. Okay, let's start there. So gotta be clear on what your values are. And again, if you want me to go into like, how do I know what my values are? Let me know in the comments and I can probably make a video about that. A is your attachment style. Now, outside of values, this is the other number one thing that is going to determine whether or not a relationship is healthy for you. All right. And so what I'll say shortly, because we could have a whole conversation on attachment styles, is there's another video I already did where I go into detail on attachment styles, and it is called How to Slay the Emotionally Unavailable Man Dragon. It is an entire 90-minute masterclass on how to deal with emotionally unavailable partners, and attachment styles is a big part of that conversation. So you need to know what your attachment style is, and if you have an insecure attachment style, the best thing you can do is get with someone who has a secure attachment style. All right, cool. T is temperamental synergy. This is all about your personality. This is all about how you show up in terms of your emotional disposition, because that's what personality is. It's your emotional blueprint, if you want to call it that. And I have a get compatibility quiz that will tell you what your personality type, what your temperament is, and the best temperaments for you. That link will also be in the description. But let's get to the C, because the C is what really connects to the number one skill. Okay. And I'll skip C really quickly to go to the H. So we got MATCH because it's match. H is hazard for you, which means you need to know your deal breakers and the person needs to not have any. Okay, great. Now we can focus on the meat of this. C in match stands for the capacity to meet your realistic expectations. Right? Here they are. So there is a really cool resource that I have all of my clients complete. It is not something I created. But it is a methodology that I'm certified in. It's called the Kolbe Index. And there's an assessment that helps you to define exactly what you expect your partner to do in a relationship. And so the way that this works, we tend to think that a partner needs to be a 10 in everything, right? They need to be able to get all the details and make sense of things strategically, but they also need to be able to get straight to the point. And they also need to be able to explain things masterfully, right? You can't be all those things. You need to be organized, but also go with the flow. Both, right? You need to be able to create all the systems and do one thing at a time, but also be really good at multitasking. Nah, it's unrealistic to expect that. You have to, be really spontaneous, but also keep everything the same and not change things and keep things stable, right? Be very hands-on and fix things and be great with manipulating the physical environment, but also be an abstract thinker and be able to work with concepts and numbers, right? It's not realistic to be able to do all the different things. And so there is a tool called the Kolbe Relationship Index that will allow you to realistically define your expectations that will exist in a human, in a real human. Because you can't have all of those, but you can have some. And it will help you get clear on which ones are most important to you, which of those qualities, which of those traits, which of those consistent patterns of action are really necessary for you to feel satisfied in a relationship, because your relationship satisfaction is 100%. Let's say 98, because room for error. Your relationship satisfaction is mostly 98+% dependent on how realistic your relationship expectations are. And so this, more than anything else, any other tool that I can give you or share with you, this is going to be the biggest game changer for defining how a partner acts. And now when we think of being in relationships and having the honeymoon phase, if you think of the personality as marketing, right? It's how we feel. It's the experience in terms of the brand of a person. But then when the honeymoon phase wears off and we are wait, you don't do the stuff I thought you were going to do based on the brand I'm experiencing, that goes back to the person's instincts and their behaviors that connect to the Kobe index. So yes, we got the personality piece, but we also got the action, the instinct, the consistent behavior piece. And so when we're looking at realistic expectations, we have to know all 5 of those things, but especially that C. Like, we have to know what our realistic expectations are and be able to define and qualify whether or not someone can meet those expectations. So that is a gist. Like I said, we can go into more detail with any of the things if you want me to. If you want me to do a video on like, how do I get clear on the values? How do I really define my attachment style? And then what do I do with it? Like any of those things, how do I get clear on my deal breakers? Totally willing to make another video on any of those. So just let me know. And again, number 1 reason anyone is single is because they're trying to have a level 25 relationship with level 3 dating skills. So take the dating skills quiz at the link below, and I will see you next time. Sending you love, peace, and glitter.